Namaste friends, Sunday 8 p.m. and welcome to our Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom on our Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels. We are happy we are back today with a very interesting topic with Dr. Subramanian Swamy. I have to tell you that today's topic is, has India's parliamentary system failed? Does India have another democratic alternative? The next 45 minutes, we with Dr. Swamy will be discussing a very new interesting topic. And as you all know, that our constitution, which our founding fathers drafted under the able leadership of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Rajendra Prasad ji and the other team, was adopted on the 26th of November 1949 and was enacted or came into force on the 26th of January 1950. And as you know, our founding fathers of the Constitution adopted a parliamentary system based on somewhat model of the cabinet system of Westminster system of Britain, but not exactly the same. Last so many decades, we have been going on with the parliamentary system of democracy. There are other options across the globe. We have, as you know, the British model. Then we have the presidential system of in USA. All are part of the democratic system. But now, as that virtually 72 years are over, we are just examining whether our parliamentary system has failed. When I talk about the parliamentary system, I mean of the parliamentary system of governance, not exactly whether parliament has failed, but the parliamentary system of governance which we adopted in 1949 and enacted it from 1950. So today's discussion is whether there are any other better alternatives to this parliamentary system. Are there any shortcomings? Whether we could do better with another system or hybrid or a different option. So the next 45 minutes, we at Words of Wisdom, Gyan Ganga, along with Dr. Swamy, will be discussing this very interesting and a different topic. I have to thank my co-host, Professor Arvind Chaturvedi from Delhi, and Mr. Ramesh Swamy for their help, and also our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Tejas Navalgul, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Swaminathan, Ajesh Nair, and Vishal Mehta for their background support and various other teamwork that makes this program every Sunday at 8 p.m. Today is the 165th episode. So with this opening remarks, it is over to Dr. Swamy to initiate the discussion. I thank our viewers across the globe for putting their support to our team and to us so that every week we appear before you. Thank you, and over to Dr. Swamy.
Yeah. Thank you, Jagdish. I would like to begin by saying that although the question was posed whether the parliamentary system has failed and does India have to look for another democratic system, and my answer to both is, in the very beginning I'll tell you, is no, it has not failed and you don't need another one. It's a question of how to improve the present functioning of the parliamentary system. And as Jagdish correctly pointed out, it's not just parliament itself, but a whole connected thing that comes with it. I'd like to also tell you that, which is very often stated, but it's time for us to deal with it and take it out of our mind. Our system presently has got nothing to do with Britain. Yes, we have parliament, but so does the whole of Europe have parliament. The parliament has a president who gives the annual reading of what the policies are going to be. That you don't have. Of course, in England, it's a queen, and we don't have a queen. We have abolished monarchy completely. So I think it's time we now say we have grown up so much and it evolved so much that no point in talking about our connection with the British system. It got nothing to do with it. The British system doesn't even have a constitution. So everything is by convention. So therefore, it's a different kind of a system compared to ours. Ours is more like the panchayat system that we used to have. If you look at the panchayat system, and then the Jilla Parishads, and then all the way to the king never decided on his own. He had a big darbar. I mean, they call it darbar or whatever. But there were ministers there. There can be arguments. There be counter arguments. You remember that when Krishna went and sought permission to address the gathering in which Duryodhan was there, and all the the people who were opposed to the Pandavas were there. So there he argued the matter. It was replied to. Same thing when you look at Ravan. Ravan had Vibhishana in it. He had his son Indrajit and all that. And there was constant discussion as to what to do, what permission to give. So I think it would be more appropriate to say that we in India have evolved over time, and which was interrupted during the foreign invasions that we had. And today, after 72 or 73 years, we are looking back to see whether, as I told you, now we are only looking back to see what is it that we can do to improve the situation. So I would like to make it very clear that the parliamentary system that we have is a system of governance of a state where the executive derives its legitimacy from its ability to democratically combine the confidence of the legislature. That is, executive is outside. Its represented, its ministers have all to be members of parliament. The prime minister has to be a member of parliament. And they try to persuade parliament by majority or by persuasion or whatever to get their agenda accepted. So that's the parliamentary system. And that parliamentary system, we in fact today must recognize that unlike many other countries, and I'll give you examples, we have a head of state, that's the President of India, and he is not a member of parliament. He addresses the parliament once a year. And sometimes if he wants some emergency, he gets an opportunity. But he is not a member of parliament. He is not part of parliament. And the head of state is distinct from the head of government, who has to be a member of parliament. So the member of the government is a part of parliament, the institution of parliament, and the president is not. Now, if you go to America, the president is not a member of Senate or Congress, nor are the ministers a part of it. They can be summoned to give evidence, but they are not members. So there is a very big difference between the American system and our system. There is a substantial difference between the British system and our system. And since the British don't have a constitution, so we proceed according to what the Constitution says. The Constitution has fundamental rights. It has a preamble. It has states' rights. It has union rights. All that, it's a highly, if you look at the Constitution, it's one of the bulkiest constitutions of the world. And we have to salute Dr. Ambedkar for having produced it. Of course, he had a lot of supporters, intellectuals, all in his team. And he got a lot of backing from both Rajendra Prasad, who was president of the Constituent Assembly, and Sardar Patel, who was the chairman of the Fundamental Rights Commission, Fundamental Rights Committee of the Constituent Assembly. So he finally did produce it. The only time Ambedkar said, I will not sit in this Constituent Assembly to pass most obnoxious He said bill anti-national. He was very critical, and that was Article 370. It came as the last item just as the Parliament was concluding in November of 1949. At that time, Farooq Abdullah came, Sheikh Abdullah came, the father of Farooq Abdullah. He came and said, Nehru's asked him Nehru had of course run away to Britain at that time. He couldn't face Parliament. So he came and he said to Ambedkar, can you please bring in this amendment on Article 370? And Ambedkar's words are recorded. He said, I am not a traitor. I will never agree to this kind of an article being inserted. And what is the article? It's just on the question of the independence of Kashmir, which said that till temporarily the Kashmir will be administered by a constituent assembly specially set up for Kashmir. So it was supposed to be temporary, but it took a long time, 70 years to demolish it. And the BJP government, when it came to power in full majority, abolished it. So I would like to tell you that the Constitution is a big document. It takes a long time to understand the whole of it. You have to go bit by bit. But to begin with, let me say that the Indian system, parliamentary system, if it went according to the Constitution, and every member of parliament knew the Constitution, was required to memorize it if possible, then I'll tell you the functioning of parliament will be much easier. Now, we come to this question that how are the policies made? Now, in parliament, unlike states, which there are variation. In parliament, there are two houses. House number one is Lok Sabha. All directly elected MPs go to Lok Sabha. And Lok Sabha is exclusive right by majority to decide who will be the Prime Minister. There is Rajya Sabha, which is supposed to be members elected on behalf of the state governments. And they come as representatives of the state. And they are supposed to look after the interests of the state. So it's that's why it's called Rajya Sabha. And Lok Sabha is where people are elected. Lok Sabha size presently is about 544. And the Rajya Sabha is about 270. So the any bill that has to be passed by a Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. You can take it to Rajya Sabha first, then go to Lok Sabha, or you can take it to Lok Sabha first and make it, but that doesn't make a difference. Now, this is where all the problems arise. Because when a bill comes, most of the members don't know what it's all about. Many of them are technical bills, and so somebody has to educate them. So over the years, we have now devised something called standing committees, where every ministry of the government has a standing committee. So when a bill comes in, it goes to the standing committee dealing with that subject. And there they hold hearings, and not all MPs are members of every steering committee. You have to select, you have to give in writing that I want to be part of this steering committee. So therefore, you are in the steering committee. Usually it's about 25 people. And for each ministry, there is a standing committee. And so when the budget comes, the budget is separated into little pieces and given to each of these committees. And then the committees call the experts and ask them, and they give their opinion. And finally, the secretariat of the standing committee then decides to prepare a report and send it back to Parliament. Only after that, Parliament can pass all this. So there's a new safeguard. Now, there is also an additional body which is older, but it's still functioning. It's called Consultative Committee. There, the minister presides over. In the case of standing committee, members elected from the two houses, they become the chairman. Most of the time it is by consensus, so there's hardly any elections taking place. But the members become, and a great effort is made to see that opposition also gets a due share in proportion to their strength and so on. So these committees, actually, technically speaking, are extremely good. They've been copied from the American system, which is entirely run by committees which do all the work, and then finally it goes before the Congress, and then Congress is it's called House of Representatives in technical terms. It's like it's not like Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha is actually more powerful and more bigger, but Congress, the House of Congress, as it's called, that in United States, they come from a smaller constituency, but it's much larger. They have 700 people in the House of Congress in United States, whereas we have only 500 in a much bigger population. So the Americans then through the committees, they do everything, then it goes to the Senate and then gets cleared, and then the president puts a signature to make it a law. So it's not like that here. Nothing goes to the President of India unless it's required by the special circumstances of the order. So when you're talking about the functioning, are we having a system where all these things that Parliament needs to consider is brought to committees, and the committees sit and decide? Unfortunately, it doesn't have that today, that value. And so most parliaments go, put sign there and come back. And then the secretariat of the standing committees, they prepare the report, goes to Parliament, nobody reads it. Then another thing that we have, which is very restrictive, but we have to find an alternative, because without it also we are in trouble, and that is called a whip. The whip says the party can order its members of Parliament or members who are elected by the party to vote as their leadership tells them. There is no room for going against it, because in the Rajiv Gandhi period, we brought in an anti-defection law, where if you violate a whip, your membership can be cancelled. So today, that is a lot of debate in our parliament, amongst the parliamentarians, whether we should have a whip for everything in this. And over the years, it's become more and more and more, and the independence to argue and put across gets smaller and smaller. So I think Parliament is getting suffocated because people won't pass it through. And the other thing is this walkout. You see, walkout makes it very easy for the ruling party to pass what they want, and there's no discussion. And so there is a deterioration in the parliamentary system, and somebody has to address it. But unfortunately, over the years, it's just become a routine and kind of a bother. And prime ministers also want to do it as quickly as possible. The number of sittings has also started going down. So Parliament has deteriorated, there's no question about it. It's not the Parliament of, I would say, the heydays of Parliament, which I've been, 6 times to Parliament, starting from 1974. It used to be, even if we had prime ministers who were hostile to us, like in 1974, Mrs. Gandhi was the prime minister. She was very hostile to Jansangh, and Jansangh was a very small party. But we got our full share to speak, and we said what we wanted to say. And then orderly way, these matters were then put to vote and decided. That process is gone. Now it's all voice vote, because most of the time the opposition is walking out. So what is the need for taking an actual vote? So your voice vote and get it passed. So I think the value, the responsibilities of Parliament are being whittled down. And we are reaching a stage where Parliament might just become totally just a rubber stamp. And that's a very dangerous thing. And I think that is what we need to address. And that can only come when the parties decide to treat their members as an individual who has ideas and who wants to express them. In the end, whether of course there's a whip, so he may continue to vote. For instance, I had to vote for GST, but I on the floor was a single person who opposed it. Only one person. Everybody else fell in line. And today nobody wants to own up the GST. No, I didn't have anything to do with it. GST is the most ridiculous thing that happened, and I'm surprised that Narendra Modi got it through. When as Chief Minister, he wrote a letter to Manmohan Singh that I will never allow this to be implemented in Gujarat. But when he came to Parliament, I don't know what happened. He actually, literally pushed it through. But it is not something that was dictatorial, because the entire House voted for GST. Congress voted, every opposition party voted. The only man who threatened to vote but could not because of the whip was myself. So therefore, that kind of situation has started coming, where bills are getting passed in rapid succession without sometimes even discussion. You take it to the evening of the day, and by the time which everybody has gone, and then you get it through. So I think the quality of parliament proceedings has gone down. And Parliament's responsibility outside the Parliament also, committee meetings, traveling around the country and doing on-the-spot checks, all these have gone down in a very substantial way. So Parliament is now just become how do you select the Prime Minister? That's all. After that, anything and everything the Prime Minister says goes. So this is a erosion of Parliament which we can't allow. But we do need Parliament. Country needs a Parliament. Country wants a Parliament. Now you see, in the emergency, Mrs. Gandhi dismissed, suspended all fundamental rights and all that. What did the world say? Because I know because I went abroad to campaign, so I know what newspapers were saying. They're saying this is a poor country. What the poor people can understand, what fundamental rights and all that. And so Parliament is not there, democracy is not there in India. It's also going like the other third world countries. This is what they said. And when the vote took place, when the Mrs. Gandhi declared elections, I was still in America on my second round there. And I decided to leave. So all my Harvard professors told me, why are you leaving? You're bound to lose. How can poor people decide? They have been given, trains are running on time, officers are coming to office on time, all this propaganda. And so therefore, there's no question that they will vote against Mrs. Gandhi. And it's only the educated people who are going to vote. But when the results came out, even the Americans, who friends of mine, were shocked. The South, which is more educated, the 4 states of South India, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Karnataka. These 4 overwhelmingly voted for Mrs. Gandhi, which meant they voted for the emergency. And who voted against it? The poor North Indians. UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, wiped out. In fact, defeated Mrs. Gandhi also. In our personal constituency, Sanjay Gandhi also defeated. So look at this democratic spirit. Please understand. We are not doing a favor to the country by bringing, this is what the people want. And that's our tradition. If you go back in history, you will find everything was done by holding meetings, consultations, consensus. It's a democratic tradition we have had over the years. So let's not say the British taught us this or British gave us this, which of course the Westerners are going to brainwash you with that. But our tradition, why it has lasted so long, where neighboring countries are all falling one by one, is because the fact that we have this tradition of our country, that democracy is an essential part. Now, I'll make 2, 3 more points and then we'll take the thing. We must understand that what is spoiling our system, in addition to this fact that people are not, people are elected as MPs not because they know the constitution. Most of the MPs I know, they come to me to ask me, constitution mein kahan likha hai, please dikha dijiye, that sort of thing. But I do feel that we brought in the anti-defection law, and so this crossing parties across the across the aisle, that is gone. But there is a more sinister way in which people are now are sort of undermining the sanctity of Parliament. And that shows up. First of all, it was called Ayaram and Gayaram. Anybody one day was in this party and then next day in that party. And then the anti-defection law came, and then that just got stopped. But we do find absenteeism and so many other things which show that there are other ways in which people are avoiding to vote because somebody has promised them something or induced them to do it. This is something that has to be done very, very strictly. There are people who are misusing the powers of and the privileges of the MP around outside Parliament for benefits. Those have to be checked. And so, and then you see, when the election gets expensive and the parties refuse to stop, giving the money for fighting elections, and say, no, you not only have to get your own money, but you have to give party also something, otherwise no ticket. That's a new culture. So there you will find that your voting is also based on vested interests coming and saying, vote like this, vote like this. And that has caused a lot of damage to our democratic system. And so we have to now, today, in the time I have, I can't give you solutions and so on. Maybe we'll have another stay. But today I'll say one, I'm very proud of our Indian people that they have demonstrated whenever necessary that they want democracy. They love democracy. Nobody can say, nobody can think, nobody should make the same mistake Mrs. Gandhi made, that the public only cares for water in the tap or some fertilizer available cheaply. None of that. There is a value system which says we must have democracy. And that has been the tradition through Panchayat Raj and so many other things. But this question of democracy is deep in our system, but we now must nurture it. We must make it more pure, cleaner, and punish those who go against the democratic system. That is, in my opinion, the most important thing. And we must resolutely oppose anyone who tries to destroy democracy. Democracy doesn't mean that if once I'm a member of the party, I'm a soldier in the party. I'm not a soldier. I'm a representative of the people. And for the sake of the ideology of the party. And if I criticize the government as a party member, you can't make that as an indiscipline and throw me out. Because that has happened in Congress party all the time. I can give you examples and examples. But the fact is that if you go and see these vibrant democracies like England or United States or Canada, you see the amount of criticism that they come out with, not personal criticism about bills, about issues and so on. And that is all accepted. But in the end, if you have to vote for the interest of the party, you can vote. And even in India, you don't have to worry about that because we have this anti-defection law which will force you to vote for the party. but at least people in the party should be encouraged to get up and speak. They build their personalities that way. I mean, I've been doing it, so I've been benefiting it. But the fact is that most of the people, they are tell me privately, नहीं अगले बार हमारे टिकट काट देंगे और या मुझे मिनिस्टर नहीं बनाएंगे. Yeah, there are lots of ways in which people are being controlled. This mentality has to be fought, and especially fought if the leadership of any party becomes dictatorial. So this is what I want to say at this stage. My colleagues can take over now.
Dr. Swamy, a brief, can you put this in even for the benefit of our viewers in Hindi, who have been asking a lot of this. See if you can put this in about 5-10 minutes in Hindi, please, that they can also
Hindi?
or what you've just said.
Arvind is going to do it or I'm going to do it?
No, you can do it, Dr. Swamy.
Okay.
If it is okay. If you, otherwise, we can just jump to questions and Arvind can do it in the end.
No, I agree. No, I'll make it. मैंने ये कहा कि लोकतंत्र हमारे ऐतिहासिक परंपरा है. ये अंग्रेज़ों ने दिया. ये जो प्रचार चली अंग्रेज़ों के जब छोड़कर गए तो कहा कि हाँ तुम्हारे लिए हमने डेमोक्रेसी तुम्हें सिखा कर गए. ये बिल्कुल गलत है. आप देख लीजिए महाभारत, आप देख लीजिए रामायण, कितनी बहस हुई. रावण को मारना है नहीं मारना है, विभीषण को स्वागत करना है नहीं करना, सब में डिस्कशन हुई थी. रामचंद्र जी और उनके भाई जो थे वो विरोध कर रहे थे. लक्ष्मण, बहस हुई. कृष्ण भगवान थे, बट वो गए कौरव के सभा में, यानी उनकी जो पार्लियामेंट सेशन जिसको हम कह सकते हैं, राज्यसभा, इसको राज्यसभा कहते हैं हमारी संस्कृत में, उसमें गए और उन्होंने बहस की कि भाई 5 गांव दे दो, युद्ध मत करो. और माने नहीं, तभी तो युद्ध हुआ. तो ये जो है हर जगह में एक लोकतंत्रीय मंशा हमारी हिंदुस्तान के लोगों का है, और इस मंशा को आप कहीं अंकुश नहीं लगाने देना चाहिए. आज ये खतरा हो सकती है क्योंकि इतनी चीज़ें हैं, मीडिया है, टीवी है, और पार्टी की डिसिप्लिन के नाम पर लोग डर भी जाते हैं आजकल. पार्टी का डिसिप्लिन तो होना ही चाहिए, बट वो सिद्धांत के लिए होना चाहिए. जिस सिद्धांत के लिए आपने वोट ली उसके लिए अनुशासन होनी चाहिए. परंतु विचारों में जब हम अधिकार में नहीं हैं, हम सिर्फ एक सदस्य हैं या संसद सदस्य भी हैं, हम लोगों को एक वैकल्पिक विचार देने के लिए बोलनी चाहिए, तब ही ये लोकतंत्र पनपेगा. और मेरा कहना था लोगों को इस अंग्रेजी में जब मैं बोल रहा था कि ये जो है ये थोड़ा सड़ रहा है, तो इसीलिए लोगों को सबको कहना चाहिए, लोग भी कहनी चाहिए अपने चुने हुए प्रतिनिधि, वहाँ जाकर क्यों नहीं बोलते हो, और बोलो, हम सुनेंगे, हम टीवी ब्रॉडकास्ट देखेंगे कि तुमने बोला है कि नहीं. तो इस प्रकार से वो प्रोत्साहित करने की ज़रूरत है. नहीं तो ये धीरे धीरे ये डेमोक्रेसी जो लोकतंत्र है ये ख़त्म हो जाएगी, सड़ के मर जाएगी. और इसीलिए मैंने कहा हमारे देश में कोई खराबी नहीं है, डेमोक्रेसी ही सबसे अच्छा प्रणाली है. इससे अच्छा प्रणाली हमारी हम हो ही नहीं सकती. और हजारों साल के लिए हमने डेमोक्रेसी के अनुसार ही हमारी राजनीति चली है. तो इस डेमोक्रेसी तो होना ही है, उसमें कभी किसी संदेह नहीं होनी चाहिए. परंतु उसको, उसकी जो स्वास्थ्य है उसको सुधारने के लिए जो अनेक कदम लेनी चाहिए. उसमें चंद जो हमने बताई है, आगे भी जब मौका मिलेंगे तो और भी विस्तार में देंगे, कहीं लिखित में कभी बांट कर आप सब मेंबर्स को भेजेंगे, ऐसा कुछ करेंगे. बट ये हमारे लिए बहुत आज आवश्यक है, क्योंकि इंदिरा गांधी ने दिखाया कितना जल्दी डेमोक्रेसी को, यानी कि डेमोक्रेसी को ख़त्म किया जा सकता है. अच्छा हुआ कि लोगों ने विद्रोह किया, इंदिरा गांधी ने गलती करके चुनाव कराया, उसमें पिट गई, नहीं तो क्या होता हमारे देश का. तो आज भी मैं कहता हूँ कि सबको चेतावनी देना चाहिए नेताओं को, हमारी बोलने के अधिकार पर अंकुश मत लगाइए। आप गलत करेंगे तो हम कहेंगे गलत हो रहा है। हम यानी चाइना हमारे देश में आकर हमारी ज़मीन की हड़प कर लिया है तो हम खूब बोलेंगे। ये राष्ट्रवाद नहीं है कि हमारे देश की बुराई नहीं करनी चाहिए। ये सच है, इसको बोलना चाहिए। तो ऐसे वातावरण पैदा करने के लिए ही मैंने आग्रह किया था और आगे और मौका मिलेगा आपको जानकारी देने के लिए।
Sir, Dr. Swamy, I fully agree with you on the first answer to the topic of this debate. You said our parliamentary system has not failed us and we don't need alternative. I fully agree with you. But the problem is the narration, what you said is basically the quality of the parliamentary system, the way we are following, is deteriorating over a period of time, and what should be done. I have observed four things which should be amended. First of all, I see the quality of the parliamentarians themselves. We call about criminalization, and people are getting tickets from the political parties who are having money with the criminal background, the Bahubalis, the toughies, and they get into parliament, and that is the reason why they don't show any seriousness in the debates, because it is not their purpose, number one. So this should be done, and the discipline can be maintained about the members of the parliament. The quality of the parliamentarians can be only checked by the political parties. That is number one. Second is, we have a very good system about questions and answers. Both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, we have questions from the parliamentarians, both oral questions and written questions. But what is happening over a period of time, I have been observing that in the national interest, these questions are not answered. For example, Dr. Swamy, you had asked this question on China several times. And the Rajya Sabha Secretariat, or the body which decides to select the questions, they did not take your question to the minister, and they said in the national interest, this information cannot be given. So this pattern is increasing over a period of time, and large number of members of parliament who want to ask serious questions, they are denied answers because of the excuse they take in the national interest. Third thing which I observe, we have a speaker in the Lok Sabha and we have a chairman of the Rajya Sabha, who is the vice president of the country. Over a period of time, both the speaker and chairman Rajya Sabha have been acting dictatorially. I don't know whether it is a breach of privilege by my saying this. I'm not a member of parliament. I'm not saying it in parliament, but this has been observed over a period of time. Maybe Lok Sabha, there is a majority system, Rajya Sabha, there is a majority, and any party which has a majority can bulldoze any resolution, any bill. But the way it has been done over a period of time, especially I've observed very recently, 3 farmers' bill, which were passed in Lok Sabha with a majority 303 members of parliament of BJP, and then some more from the NDA. But the way it was done in Rajya Sabha, I was witnessing live on the television, and the way the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Harvansh, was presiding over it, but the way it was done, it was very bad in taste. So these dictatorial tendencies of the speaker and the Rajya Sabha chairman, that should be checked, and there should be a reason to check it. And last but not the least, you mentioned about the disruptions of the opposition parties. Disruptions leading to adjournments, loss of time, wastage of expenditure. Every party has been doing it. I've been observing for more than 25 years. I remember when H.D. Devegowda was Prime Minister in 1997. I was in the Rajya Sabha press gallery at that time. Those days I used to cover for a newspaper. And I saw that there was a special session held to celebrate 50 years of independence. And in that 50 years special session, every political party, every parliament member, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha agreed and a resolution was passed, a special resolution was passed, that nothing will be done to disrupt the proceedings of the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, and every party had agreed to it. Rupees 2.5 lakhs per minute is the expenditure of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. In one session alone, if there is a disruption, 150 crores go down the line, the waste. So maybe about in a year, 400 to 500 crores rupees go waste because of disruption. Congress is also guilty of it. BJP is also guilty, because when BJP was in opposition, BJP was doing the same thing. When Congress is in opposition, Congress is doing same thing. Not only that, you have seen unruly scenes, both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha on several occasions. So this must be checked. Somehow the parliamentarians must be disciplined. So these four are the basically, I will say, the ills of the parliamentary system currently we have, and this system which is rotting should be they should be arrested, and they should be improved in order to bring the glory of the parliamentary system.
Right.
Dr. Swamy, my question to you on behalf of the viewers is, although the present parliamentary system which we have enacted from 1950 is in a new form, historically we may have had the democratic spirit in mind, but this system is since 1950. How has democracies in other countries evolved over a period of time? For example, were they not teething trouble in America or in Britain, or many of the drawbacks which we have? Because sometime I heard you saying that until 1930, the booths, or 1930-35, you may correct me, even the booths, the lanes leading to the booth where voting had to be done in America were lined by liquor dens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
how has it evolved over a period of time in some of these newer democracies, in a sense, Britain and UK, Britain and USA, for the benefit of our viewers? Because we are an evolving nation in the present term. I'm not saying in a large, old civilization, but in the present form. So could you tell for the benefit of our viewers?
No, see, what happened is that after 1930, and what happened, of course, the war came, World War came in between. But by 1950, a national consensus emerged. Going to politics and cleaning it up is a nationalistic, sentiment. And so people from very high walks of life, I'm not talking about business, I'm talking about, say Paul Douglas. He was a great economist. He's got even a Cobb Douglas function to his credit in economics. He left his professorship and came. Adlai Stevenson, lawyers. That trend is not happening in India, except here and there. But they also, when they come, they become chamchas. You see, they are afraid to take on the leadership. And you also need the public to be appreciative of people who take up your cause and perhaps earn the wrath of the leadership. So it's a complicated thing. You see, it's called a democratic temperament, and that has to be instilled. I do believe that India has demonstrated that it is capable when a crisis comes. It's happened in the emergency, as I gave you an example. But I think in our country also, in the last few years, there has been a growing feeling that the nation people should speak up. It's not getting translated, but I can see my own scenes because I've always been like this. I never bothered whether the leadership cares or not. I've only spoken on issues. I've spoken on the ideology. If you violate the ideology, I speak up on it. And there is a lot of appreciation from the public, from which sections I never got in the past appreciation, especially when I was in those days talking about the atom bomb and, not taking foreign aid and so on. People thought this is all esoteric. But this whole idea of speaking up on common man's issues, even if, for instance, take the farmers' agitation. I was the only one who spoke up, saying there's an alternative way of doing it. This is the alternative way. Where, I had suggested that those states which don't want to implement it, don't implement it. Let the BJP states implement and show what a wonderful reform it is. But the Prime Minister didn't agree and ultimately gave up the whole thing. He need not have given up the whole thing. Got it implemented in the BJP states and let Punjab and all show that they have done better than the BJP states. It wouldn't have happened. Actually, it would have that reform would have caused a lot of good things for agriculture. So the issue basically is this, that we have to not expect politicians to come from the skies. You must start saying that politicians who speak the truth, they should be honored. That process will then will lead to much greater changes in our politics.
Dr. Swamy, not only were elected members and elections to the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, state legislatures are conducted by what is in India called the Election Commission of India. I understand in foreign countries, the primaries to various political parties are more or less controlled by some organs like the Election Commission, which is equivalent to an election commission. Will that democratic feature of a political party also not influence the democratic temperament of the people? So could you tell us something about that for our viewers?
Yeah, supposing you no more have a situation where the party leaders decide who will be the candidate. Anybody and everybody can make application to become a candidate, and within the party, the primaries, as you called it just now, within the party there is a contest between party workers' votes. So the party worker comes and votes, I want this candidate. And sometimes it happens that the leadership loses that. And so that is the way to bring in more democratization, where before selecting the party candidate, you allow the party workers through secret ballot to decide who should be the candidate of the party. And that is now going on, you see, because Trump is giving a lot of problems to the Republican Party. So the Republican Party is saying, okay, you put up candidate, we put up candidate, and we'll see what happens. So that process is very good if we can organize it. And it should be organized, in my opinion, definitely, because we have people who want to be candidates. And we must make sure that they get a chance to influence the party to give them the ticket. Yes.
Dr. Swamy, some of our viewers, because there are different type of questions, would want to know whether the present dispensation at the center led by Mr. Modi, are they not been autocratic in their style of functioning, and what would be your views on that? Because it's not a question of attacking a leader or not attacking a leader, but the autocratic style of functioning, is it not also harmful for democracy? And what are your views on it?
This is a situation where it takes two hands to clap. You have a man who is autocratic. Why can't you stand up and say, no, this can't be done this way? Take a vote in the party if you don't believe, or some challenge. Stand up. But they don't stand up. Leaders can't come from the heavens. You see, you have to create a psychological climate in our country that speaking the truth in matters of politics is very necessary. And if you see the leaders make a mistake, to tell him on his face that you're making a mistake. By the way, there was this spirit in the 1950s. For example, Jawaharlal Nehru tried to hide the fact, like today Modi is trying to hide the fact that the Chinese have come and taken our land. So finally, some of the MPs, and one of them was a congressman. He produced evidence to show that the Chinese had come into Aksai Chin. So then Jawaharlal Nehru said to his student, to his party man, there's not one blade of grass growing there. Why are you so keen on getting it? So he took his Gandhi topi off and said, there's not one hair on my head. Shall I cut my head off also because of that? So, I mean, that kind of rebellion changed the whole climate. And of course, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru went to the other extreme and declared war without preparation. And we lost the war.
Dr. Swamy, I have a question. So unfortunately, I was trying to troubleshoot some of these things a big one. It might have been covered, but I think
Twitter has crashed.
Yeah, no, but it's fine right now. I think it's back up. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So, absolutely,
It's come back, I think.
Yeah, so the parliamentary system has not failed. The people in the parliament has failed. I think, is that the right answer to say, based on what you're saying, is that the correct way to summation? The people in the parliament has failed, not the parliament per se, a parliamentary system per se.
Dr. Swamy?
Yes.
Can you hear
Ramesh
me?
asked you a question, whether he asked you a question. Ramesh, you want to repeat it or shall I repeat it?
No, you go ahead. I don't think
It's not on the screen.
Dr. Swamy, acha, you can't. Dr. Swamy, Ramesh is saying whether he think you have got him, he has got you right. You say that the parliamentary system has not failed. It is the people who are in the parliamentary system who have failed. He just wants a confirmation from you.
Yes, it's a confirm. That's exactly what I wanted to say. The system is fine. You can't devise a better system than this. And we have failed it by not properly utilizing it.
Isn't the lack of opposition also a big contributing factor for this failure, Dr. Swamy? He can't hear me, Jagdish. Sorry.
Dr. Swamy, you can't hear him. His question, Ramesh's question is there a lack of a good opposition also contributing to the failure of the system or the failure of the people who are in the system? A good opposition.
Why is there lack of talent in the opposition? Because everybody wants to just glorify to be a minister. It doesn't matter whether you perform or not. How many ministers of today of Mr. Narendra Modi's government can be even called ministers? Most of the work is being done by the bureaucrats. They all they do is sign. But nobody is there to say because people are afraid to speak. It's all these are connected. And I wouldn't blame any one particular group on this. You have to collectively decide that yes, and some people have to stand up, and especially people who have been in parliament for so many times and so on, they must stand up. I know so many members of parliament who have been 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, but they don't want to stand up because they may not get the 8th time ticket.
Last comment.
Swamy,
One second.
Swamy, just one small question.
Yes.
What do you say about the quality of the people and what Ramesh says about the quality of the people in parliament? The same thing is happening in the state governments also.
Yeah, much worse.
In Uttar Pradesh, one minister has very recently, last week, alleged that he is not even given information about the cabinet meetings. Only the secretary in the department, the principal secretary or the secretary of the department takes the decision. Minister is not even informed. And what is happening is the same thing happening in the center. प्रधान मंत्री जी सीधा सचिव महोदय से बात करते हैं, वो किसी भी विभाग के सचिव हों, सीधी फाइल प्रधानमंत्री जी के कार्यालय में जाती है और सीधे डिसीजन लिए जाते हैं मंत्री को जानकारी तक नहीं होती, कभी कभी मंत्री को बाद में जानकारी होती है कि
तो वो मंत्री त्याग पत्र दे,
हाँ,
वो क्यों बैठे हुए हैं वहाँ? उनको पब्लिकली प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस बुला के कहना चाहिए कि इन 4 मामले पर मुझे पूछे बिना मेरे मिनिस्ट्री का मुख्यमंत्री या प्रधानमंत्री ने खुद अपने अधिकार पर उन्होंने कर दी, तो ये तो इसके माने मैं कुछ नहीं हूँ, तो मैं इस्तीफा दे रहा हूँ या मैं त्याग पत्र दे रहा हूँ और मैं जा रहा हूँ। तो उसका असर बहुत होगा। आज भी हमारी देश में लोग सुनी सुनी बातों को, जैसे इमरजेंसी में कौन था, कोई अखबार कुछ नहीं था, पर लोगों को जबानी तरीके से सबको पता लग गया था कि क्या हो रहा है, और इकट्ठे हो गए और इंदिरा गांधी को हरा दी।
So, Dr. Swamy, one
Dr.
last
Swamy.
comment. I just see one last comment.
Yes.
I don't know. Dr. Swamy, can you hear me now? I don't think
No.
so. I will just. I just want to say one last thing. So basically, there is no opposition. There as a party, there was one opposition, just one member opposition, no longer there too in the party. I just want to, and we all know who that one member opposition is.
Dr. Swamy, my last question before Arvind Chaturvedi closes this thing. I mean, I want many of our viewers have another question which I can't display the name because it is mixed with numerous questions. They say that for parliamentary democracy, Dr. Swamy, you can hear me?
Yeah, very clear.
Yeah. For parliamentary democracy, there is the legislature, there is the executive, and there is the judiciary. And this all three put together, and the fourth estate put together makes the success of parliamentary democracy. What do you think on the judicial system in this parliamentary democracy? Is more improvement desired? Is it not judicial system also important pillar of parliamentary democracy?
Well, first of all, I think we retire our judges much too early, because the expectation of life has now gone to 75. So why are you retiring judges at 62, and if he's Chief Justice 65? Why in America, of course, by the way, the judges are not, at least in the Supreme Court, are not retired. They are for life, unless they themselves say, no, I am no more up to it, I'm quitting. But it's a lifetime appointment.
Even federal.
So I'm saying that these are all not problems created by one class of people. It's a system. In the system, people are adjusting to that, and therefore you're getting this thing. I would say that if tomorrow you said that the judges will retire only at 75 and they will get double the salaries they're getting today, you will see a whole lot of people will come and start applying for exams, for examination to become judges. Today, if you're a lawyer, you make at least 20 times more than a judge makes. I mean, I know some lawyers, my God, I mean, the amount of money they have made is unbelievable. I know they are my friends, so I won't take their names, but this is what it is. So the issue is that the society must give that necessary. If you think that being a judge is a very important thing, then give that kind of respect to it. Don't make them. I find now some of the best judges that I have appeared before, they are today retired and sitting at home. What is this? It's a total waste of talent.
And Dr. Swamy, even the media has failed us. In a sense, media is supposed to be bringing these out, but they have completely failed too, because to hold accountability. I don't think he
Dr.
can.
Swamy, I don't know whether you have heard him, Ramesh speaking. The media says, media which is supposed to be the fourth estate, has it also not failed in a parliamentary democracy?
Oh yes, our media is still better than Pakistan's, Bangladesh's, even Sri Lanka's, and in many ways almost all countries of the world except about maybe 15, 20. And so, but look at the difficulties they are facing from the government. Newsprint, the government can turn it off any time. They can raise this rate, that rate, electricity. So I think,
Advertisements.
yeah, that's right. And,
Advertisement.
and if you're on the right side, you will get everything. So I think, most of our malaise is because the intellectuals of our country, the people in authority, even those who are well-intentioned, have no nerve or no encouragement to stand up. I'm saying that even 10 people stand up in today's politics, the way I've stood up, if I may say so myself, you may think I'm boasting, but I say that just all stand up and say, no, this won't do. Chandrasekhar stood up when Mrs. Gandhi declared an emergency. Afterwards, everybody appreciated him. At that time, he was called such horrible names. He was put in, what was it, solitary confinement. Just because he said, no, it is not, it is wrong to put Jayaprakash in jail, Indira Gandhi put him in solitary confinement in Ambala. So, but he withstood it. And that helped in so many other ways. We had people, Moraji Desai, 80 years old, solitary confinement. He refused to budge. In fact, some political leaders had agreed to have a guided democracy system. Because I was told about it, and that's why the RSS people said, get off and go to America, it is not safe for you anymore here. They had actually signed. Then Moraji said, no, I won't agree. And therefore Mrs. Gandhi declared elections because she knew without Moraji it can't be done, because Moraji had already done a Gujarat movement and he had become an iconic figure after his solitary confinement. So therefore all you need a few people to stand up. You don't need the whole class.
Okay, I think we have had a lot of discussion. Arvind, it's now time to wind up.
One small question, Jagdish, before I wind up. Dr. Swamy, present government has a full majority.
Yeah.
And very safe, stable government. But opposition is alleging that they are misusing the CBI, the ED, the machinery to harass the opposition. If you look at the history, even when Congress was in power, they did the same thing. So do you think this is one of the weaknesses of our democracy? Misuse of power.
It's a weakness of character. When you use authority, which has been given to you for doing welfare of the people, you use it to fix your enemies. I have faced it all my life. And you know very well, when I was a minister in that Chandrasekhar government, and I was the man who opened the Babri Masjid gates. He had to come to me and explain that his promotion to High Court judge was stopped because of that. And by whom? By one chief minister.
Yes.
And to overrule it. And he got it ultimately. But you know, the injustices that is heaped on people, and the people are also those who say, only those who have got high positions, they go and do namaste to them. You should have contempt for people who come by licking boots, you see. Yes,
Thank you.
Thank
Arvind,
you.
please
Dr.
conclude.
Swamy. Thank you, Dr. Swamy. When we had decided this subject, the reaction from the people was that they were really expecting this is to be very, very important topic and the real insight. And you have given, with your 50 years experience in Parliament, Indian Parliament, and with the knowledge of the system, since you have been part of the system, both side opposition in the government, and being in the ruling party, and also voicing your concern. As Ramesh said, you are the only opposition in the BJP. But there are many, many different issues. But again, we go back to the original question today. The topic was whether the Indian parliamentary system has failed, and the answer is no. The conclusion, based on the debate that you have and based on the description of Dr. Swamy, of course, it suffers from many ills, and there are limitations of the system, and this system can still be improved, and political parties have a bigger role to play, and the people themselves have to come forward. People have to come forward to take part in politics. The qualified people have to come to take part in the politics, and also they have to stand up to the principles, and whenever they feel something is going wrong in their party, even if it is the ruling party, they must stand up like Dr. Swamy did. Thank you very much, Dr. Swamy. Thanks, Jagdish ji. Thanks, Ramesh Swamy ji, for anchoring this program. And also, thanks to the technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Swaminathan, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Vishal Mehta, Ajesh, and Tejas. We will be meeting in next Sunday again in Words of Wisdom, 166th episode, with a new topic and Dr. Subramanian Swamy, 8 o'clock next Sunday. Till then, Namaskar, Jai Hind.
जय हिंद, धन्यवाद.
मुझको